Hello everyone, this is everything that sold on our Blondie and the Beard eBay store July 2025. This adorable Build-A-Bear is a cute little boxer pup. We found him in great condition at the Goodwill bins. We probably paid about $1 for him and he sold for $20. At our local thrift store, we found this black pair of dress shoes for only $1 and they sold for $30. At our local thrift store, we paid 25 cents for a grab bag. These air vent clips were new in package and they sold for $5. I really love the design of this mirror shelf. It was solid wood and had a bit of weight to it, but it was in great condition. We paid $1 for this item at a yard sale and it sold for $30. At a yard sale for $3, we found a set of 4 cast iron wall hangings. They were from the 1990s. There was a cat, a rooster, a pig, and a cow. The cat did sell first, and now this cute little rooster sold for $10. At a yard sale for 25 cents, we bought an empty canister of crackers and it sold for $10. This was a really cool find and my husband almost kept this one. For $1 at a yard sale, we found this 1985 Thundercats lunchbox and it still had its thermos. How cool is that? This lunchbox had a lot of wear and tear, scratches, and faded spots, but it still sold for $55. At the Goodwill bins, we paid probably $1 for these 3 new in package Lowe's Kids Workshop craft sets, and they sold for $10. At a yard sale, we paid 50 cents for a bag full of pins and jewelry. This beautiful cross with the American flag pin sold for $9.50. At a yard sale, we found these Let's Kiss magnetic bobblehead figurines for $2, and they sold for $20. This adorable little avocado with the bow was found at the Goodwill bins for under $1, and she sold for $14.02. We found this adorable Spin Master Abby Catcher at the Goodwill bins, and we paid under $1, and she sold for $20. At a yard sale, we found a bag full of vintage 1990s magnets. We paid $1, and they sold for $30. At an estate sale, we found a baggie with 3 framed stamps. We paid $1 and this one alone sold for $15. At the Goodwill bins, I found a bag full of magnets and they were mostly USA states, but there were a few other countries in there as well. There were 36 in total and it sold for $25. At a yard sale for under $1, we found this set of 3 vintage Parish wooden bowls and they sold for $25. At a rummage sale for 25 cents, we found this vintage 1975 craft Christmas ornament. It was still new in package and it sold for $26.99. At a yard sale for $2, we found these 2 adorable Snoopy dog bowls and they sold for $22.40. At a yard sale, this lady had a table full of free items and I just happened to see these vintage gift wrap sheets. They are children having a birthday party. I love finding items like this and it sold for $15. At a flea market for $2, my husband found this old-timer pocket folding knife and it sold for $30. At a yard sale for $1, we found this 2019 Rainbow High doll and her accessories and she sold for $30. Aw, these little cuties were one of our first batch of items we listed on eBay. It was so nice to see they finally found a home. We paid 25 cents and they sold for $14. At a yard sale for 25 cents, we found these 2 adorable Disney glasses and they sold for $18. At the Goodwill bins for under $1, we found this adorable little Valentine's Day bear and he sold for $12. And our last item in July was this really cool photo frame that opens and closes. How fun is that? We paid under $1 for this item at a rummage sale and it sold for $18. Thank you all for watching everything that sold in our Blondie and the Beard eBay store July 2025. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!